He was living a normal life with his family until the Russian awakened the demon in him. He couldn't resist the temptation, and he set the world on nonchalant composure as he brought out a cigar and lit it. With his cuffed hands, he brings out a canned food for his cat Pet, who was hidden inside his jacket. Obviously fed up with his attitude, two detectives sitting in front of him asked who he was. The man replies, "Me? I am." Then the scene cuts. On Monday morning is seen jogging, then going to work and returning home in the evening. His wife, Becca, always appeared tired from work when Hutch gets home. On Tuesdays he always misses the garbage truck, and his wife always makes a note to remind him. Wednesdays he does push-ups while looking at a poster with his wife's face, who is a realtor. His uneventful routine life continues that way all through the week for months until one Monday night. He was awakened by a sound in the house, and he got out of bed to check up on the children. The youngest, Abby, was fast asleep, while Blake, his second child, was awake and worried about the sound as well. Hutch noticed that the sound was coming from downstairs, and he proceeded to check it out. As he turned the corner down the stairs, he spotted two dark individuals entering the house. He grabbed his golf club and took the phone to call the police. The intruders saw him and asked him to drop the phone with their guns pointed at him. He complied, and a female voice asked him to show them where his cash is. He pointed to a bow on the table and told her that he doesn't have cash on him since he uses a debit card. When the intruder took off Hutch's wristwatch, he saw a tattoo on one of their hands. Suddenly, Blake attacked the male intruder from behind and held him down. He asked his father to take care of the second intruder, but for some reason, Hutch stopped himself just before he could hit the second intruder from behind. Then he asked Blake to let the man go. They eventually got themselves together and ran out of the house. Blake was very angry with his dad and could not understand why he would let the intruders go. The police later arrived and looked around the building while Hutch looked at his garage gate that had given the intruders access into the house. He reprimanded himself for carelessly exposing his beautiful family to such intruders. A policeman invaded his thoughts and brought him back to reality. While they talked, Blake still told his dad that he could have taken the man out. The policeman also asked why he hadn't. When the police were done, they left, and Hutch, no longer comfortable in his room, went to the living room to lie down. His daughter came to join him, and she told him that she wasn't scared because she's got her dad right there. The next morning, Hutch returned to his routines, and when the family were going out, they saw that one of their neighbors had gotten a new car. He told Hutch if he was the one attacked last night, he would have dealt with the intruders. He then entered his car and drove off. At work, a coworker, Charlie, approached Hutch and asked about what happened last night. He tells Hutch that he needs to do better and brings out a gun. Charlie tells Hutch that there is nothing that puts the light out faster than a bullet in the head. He then gave Hutch the gun and told him to keep his sister safe. Hutch dropped the gun in a fridge and went in his office. Eddie, Hutch's father-in-law, spoke to him, telling him that he knew Hutch did the best he could. He also wanted to know why Hutch was so interested in buying off the office. He told Eddie that he just needed to have something to his name. Hutch watched other workers doing their work before going into an inner room office where he turned on an old radio and listened to a flute playing. He told Harry, his half-brother, over the radio that he was getting pretty good. Harry then asked what happened last night. Hutch told him that they were two, a man and a woman, and they had a gun, an old .38 special. He says that they were scared and desperate. He described the gun in detail as he had a flashback. He then told Harry that the gun was empty. Harry told him that now he knows why he didn't do what he didn't do. He warned him to stay careful and not do anything stupid. Hutch went to see his dad at the old people's home on his way from work. He brought some food and they both ate. His dad, David, asked if he was okay. He also asked if Hutch remembers who they used to be as Hutch looks at the family frame on the wall. He returned home that evening and was talking to his son and wife when Abby told them that she couldn't find it. Hutch asked what she was looking for, and she said it was her kitty's bracelet that was on a bowl on the table. Hutch was furious that the robbers could steal something like that. So he left the house, returned to his father's apartment, got a gun, an old FBI ID, and some cash. His dad asked why he was back so soon, and he told him that he had something he needed to do. David told him to better get it done. He went around different tattoo shops and asked if they recognized the tattoo he had on a piece of paper. It was the tattoo on one of the robbers' hands. He eventually found a shop where one of the workers recognized the tattoo on Hutch's own hand and ran off after thanking Hutch for his service. Others could only imagine how dangerous he could be, and they pointed Hutch in the direction of the guy who had the tattoo Hutch was looking for. In a house down the alley, a woman was making tea with her husband when Hutch walked in and hit the man with the hand of his gun. He told them that his family never deserved what they went through that night and asked for his watch back. He then asked for the kitty bracelet. The man told him that he didn't take any bracelet, and Hutch threw him to the floor. He was about to shoot him when he heard a baby's cry from the other room. When he got to the room, he saw an infant that was on oxygen. This frustrated Hutch, and he had to leave. He was so angry and took out his vexation on the wall outside, causing some bruises on his knuckles. Then, he took a bus back home. There were two other passengers in the bus. Around a corner, an SUV pulled up to the bus and hit a trash bin by the side of the road, causing the bus and its passengers to jolt forward. Hutch saw that the men in the SUV were drunk and still drinking. He wondered if this was going to be a chance for him to ditch his anger on these men. In a voiceover, he says, "God does not close a door without opening another." He prayed that the driver open the door of the bus. His prayers were answered and the men entered. They bullied the other male passenger out and teased the female. Hutch stood, walked to the front of the bus, and gently pushed the driver down and locked the doors. When the men noticed this, they laughed at him, especially when he told them that he was going to deal with him. One of the men advances and hits him first, starting a long and serious fight. Hutch hit and kicked the men as they hit back. He was stabbed by one of the men, and when he was down, he pulled out the knife and stabbed several of the men. He was eventually thrown out of the window of the bus as the men, severely injured, asked each other what kind of man Hutch was. Outside, Hutch got up and came back into the bus. He told the young lady to run, and then he advanced towards the men to finish off what he had started. He stabbed one, strangulated another, and then broke the third's neck. The man fell to the ground and was having serious difficulty in breathing until Hutch got a straw and passed a tracheostomy. He then got out of the bus and told the driver that he was sorry about the mess and walked off. When he got home, his wife was still awake and told him that she couldn't sleep. When she saw him in the light, she knew what he's been up to. She helped him clean up, and Hutch told her that it was like the old times. He tells her that he misses her and tells her to remember who they used to be. We are then introduced to a Russian man, Yulian Kuznetsov, a mobster who was responsible for providing security for the Obshak group, drove into a club, and after joining the singer for a while, went into a room to meet some men. One of the men asked why Yulian had a black man, Pavel, in his team. Yulian told him not to worry about Pavel's color and that he is as Russian as anyone could be. Then, another man told Yulian that his dancing and playing around doesn't portray a good picture of a man who is keeping their money safe. Yulian got a glass cup and killed one of the men behind him, and then asked if the man was confident enough in his capabilities now. He was told that the man he just killed had 3% share in their company, but now, the shares are theirs to divide. He then gets a call. Yulian stands over Teddy, one of the men who had been beaten by Hutch, and cries. He was his brother. He is told that Teddy would likely not be able to walk again. He wondered what Teddy was doing on a bus as he grabbed a chair and walked into another ward. There, he finds the other men, and he throws the chair at them, asking who did that to his brother. He kept hitting one of the men with the chair until one showed him a card. It was Hutch's. Back home, Hutch was feeling more lively and acting more freely around the kids too. He gets a call from Harry, who asks if what happened last night was him. Hutch told him that it felt like salvation. Harry then tells him that one of the men was Yulian's brother. He tells him that he should ask the barber about Yulian. He eventually goes to see the barber, who tells him about Yulian. He tells Hutch that Yulian is as bad as they come. He's a man who makes bad things worse. He also tells Hutch that if he doesn't already know who Hutch was, he would soon find out. Meanwhile, Yulian was looking into Hutch's records, and his expert, Lupita, tells him where Hutch's dad is. She also says that Hutch looks harmless, but Yulian told her if she doesn't recognize a wolf in sheep's clothing, he questions her viability working for him. The barber tells Hutch that Yulian is currently responsible for taking care of the Obshak's money, but that he suspects Yulian is tired of it all and may be looking for a way out of the Obshak group. Lupita finally got the info on Hutch and was horrified by what she saw. She gave the pictures to Yulian and told him that she was done with him. At home that evening, Hutch had dinner with his family and told them that would be going to Italy for a vacation. Just about then, he noticed some cars pulling up at their house through the window. He hurriedly took his family to a secret basement in the house and told his wife not to call 911. As Yulian's men went into the house, Hutch turned the power off. The men, led by Pavel, entered the house. Hutch hid in the dark and took the men out one by one. But he was eventually overpowered and teased from behind. He blacked out. They dragged him to their car and put him in the trunk. While they drove, Pavel and the others argued whether to deliver Hutch to Yulian first or go to the hospital to treat their wounds. At the back of the car, Hutch regained consciousness and got the fire extinguisher. He broke the back seat and sprayed the men with the extinguisher. They lost visibility and crashed into a pole by the roadside. Fortunately, Hutch survived, but as he tried to get the key to unlock his handcuffs, he saw the driver and the front passenger dead. Pavel was also impaled by a rod. Pavel manages to ask him who he was, and Hutch answers, "Nobody." Pavel died seconds later. Hutch ran home and called his dad to warn him about what was possibly coming. He then got his family out of the house and sent them to his safe location while he tried to clean up the mess he had made. He arranged the men on his couch, both wounded and dead, and told them his story. He says he was once sent to kill a man, Alan, who had stolen loads of money, but this time when the man pleaded with him, he allowed him to live. 1 year later, expecting to see Alan back to his old ways, Hutch was shocked to see him with a family and very happy. Hutch says he wanted that, and he had it a little longer than he expected, and he always knew his life was a facade. The men were all dead when he was done with his story, and that was when he saw the kitty bracelet. It was in the house all along. He got his things from the house and set it on fire. He left the house and was going to his car when he changed his mind and decided to take his neighbor's new car. Later on, 2 men approached the old people's home and walked past the sleeping caregiver into David's room. His TV was on, but he appeared to be asleep. The men drew their guns, but David opened his eyes about the same time, held the first man's gun, and shot the other with his shotgun. He shoots the second as well and holds him down when the caregiver gets to his room. He acted as though it was the TV volume that was making the noise, and the caregiver asked him to turn it down. He did, and the second man died too. Meanwhile, Hutch goes to the office and throws several gold bars on the table and tells Charlie and Eddie that he is going to buy the place now. Charlie was not pleased and he wanted to hit Hutch, but Hutch hit him first. Eddie agrees to the deal and Hutch tells them to get out immediately. Yulian is seen watching the news of an accident scene involving Pavel and the others. He makes a call and tells the man to get all his men ready. At the same time, Hutch is reconstructing the office building and making several changes to every part. Harry told Hutch that he warned him about Yulian and that he is not coming out of hiding to fight Yulian. Hutch drove to a building with several securities around and inside. He went inside, killing all the men and grabbing one of the portraits in the building. He then filled the air vents with fuel and lit a bundle of cash and set the whole room, filled with money, ablaze. He watched the money burn as he turned and walked away. Yulian, who was singing once again at the club, ended his song when he saw Hutch comfortably sitting at the center table and having a meal. Yulian approached him and told him that he had guts coming into the place like this. His men pulled their gun at Hutch, but then he slowly lifted a piece of cloth on the table revealing a C4 tied to his finger. He told Julian that he needed a private talk with him. Julian then ordered his men out of the room. Hutch tells him that a part of him wants to end everything now, but then he figures that they can both rebuild whatever either of them had lost so far. Julian was a bit confused. Then, Hutch showed him a half-burnt stack of money and Julian went crazy. Hutch tells him that he shouldn't have come into his house. However, he has an opportunity to break free from Obshak Group, something Julian wants, and go live a good life somewhere safe, or he can decide to go after Hutch. Hutch tells him that he will be fine with whatever option Julian goes with. He then walked out of the building and waited in a car to see if Julian would react. As expected, Julian came out of the building and asked all his men to go after Hutch, who was now speeding off. There was a crazy chase on the streets with Julian and his men firing at Hutch. He manages to get to his new office property, and while he tried to get inside the building, he was shot on the shoulder by Julian. Just when he ran out of bullets, the windows broke and Harry was there firing and killing the men as they advanced. David also came out of the building and fired too. Hutch was surprised and they went into the building together. David told him that he tried the retirement thing, but he missed this more. As the men entered the building, they exchanged fire and the different devices that Hutch had set up went off, killing several men. Harry joined them, and they formed a cycle of 3, firing and killing Julian's men as they approached. But they ran out of ammo and Harry was shot too. Julian tells Hutch that he and his family have to pay the price now. However, Hutch got the C4 and a duct tape and started forming something. Harry and his dad did not know what it was, but Hutch told Julian that everyone dies, but some, sooner than others. He then got a bomb-proof glass shield he had taped the C4 onto and ran towards Julian. The bomb went off right in front of Julian and sent Hutch backwards. Julian died instantly and Hutch survived. The others gathered round him, and he thanked them for helping him out. They left when the police were arriving, and Hutch called his wife, telling her that if she accepts after all this that he promises to make things right. He then grabs a cat in the pipe in Julian's portrait and walked out of the building. The scene cuts back to the beginning of the movie and Hutch tells the detectives that he is nobody. Then, the detectives both got a call on their cell. Hutch was free to go. 3 months later, Hutch and Becca were being shown around the new home they were about to purchase, but the realtor got a call and gave the phone to Hutch. The call was for him. After the call, Hutch and Becca both asked, "Does the house have a basement?" In a post-credit scene, Harry and David are riding on a truck through the countryside, and when David asked why they didn't just fly to the location, Harry turned back and asked, "With these loads?"